Hello, everybody. We are about to embark on a conversation that is not only going to be exciting, but it's going to be very informative. And we're thrilled to have all the people that you just met uh, digging deeper into not only the articles that they wrote for Frontline Initiative, but their own experiences, um, providing direct support um, in the United States uh, in these times, and these times are very, frankly, turbulent. Um, and there's a, a lot of organizations, even states, are assigning DEI coordinators or DEI directors, right? Diversity, equity, inclusion. That's what the DEI acronym stands for, which is wonderful, which is beautiful. But here's the thing. In our industry, in our world of supporting people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, it would seem to be almost a given that we get that. We understand that it's important to understand diversity and equity and inclusion. But the reality is, we struggle with that in our society. In the United States specifically, we are a polarized place right now. That's the elephant in the room. We're not going to deny that. We're not necessarily going to get political in this conversation, but the reality is we have to understand the role that DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion plays in the part of the direct support professional's life. So that said, and we have our three esteemed panelists who are going to address this first question. And let me state the question very clearly. As a person who provides direct support to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, why does diversity, equity, and inclusion matter? Why does it matter? And we are going to start off with Zoe. Zoe, give us your thoughts.
I mean, I think it really matters in the work that I do, at least. Like, I work at a school and it's a public charter school for mostly kiddos on the spectrum. So just having that idea of like what autism is and what autistic people and what kids need from us to support them towards their goals. I mean, like, that's what we're here to do. And I think as educators too, especially as white or white passing educators, especially, it's very important for us to understand, like, the things we really need to understand about our students of color, and about making their experience something that, helps them towards their goals instead of hinders them. Because like this world really, and our society unfortunately is not like made to help them. And I just think that's like, it makes me want to like make sure that I'm doing the right thing, and that I'm making that experience for those students as best as possible. Whether it comes to neurodiversity or to being diverse in how you look or your culture or all of the above. So yeah.
Thank you, Zoe. Thank you. Declan, let's go to you.
So with the group I work with now, we work with mostly teens that are in foster care, whether they're initially entering or they're transitioning from a standard foster home to the more supported style that we offer here at Rise. We get probably about 15 to 20 referrals a month, and about 5 of those every month are a child that identifies some way other than what's on their birth certificate, whether it's they go by a different name or a different set of pronouns. And we've really come to notice that that is a huge important factor, especially in foster care, where a lot of families go into it with an idea of the kind of kid they're going to get placed with them. And then we get these referrals that we have to work to shift the family's focus and make sure that these kids are receiving as full of a support for all parts of their identity as possible. And it's been huge seeing the difference that it can make for some of these kids. We had a kid enter who was 13, testing out the they, them pronoun, and had never had a support worker that regularly used that pronoun set for them. And they had started leaning away from it because it was just too difficult. And so being able to have the team that I have here at Rise working with us and give that kid the full support and buy them educational materials around it and help them utilize the pronouns that they were wanting to use, we saw a huge personality change in the kid. And they were able to have that support and felt supported at home, had backup at school for when things came up, and had a team there for them that saw the whole picture of them and not just what they went into it with the intention of supporting. Because especially when working with DD and IDD individuals, people tend to forget that they are a whole person still. And everywhere preaches the person-centered focus. And they often lean towards that being like the personality and their goals and interests, but it does not always capture the full person in all instances. And so I definitely think it's important that we continue to look at that diversity in areas other than just the personality with the individuals that we support.
Wow. Really, that's awesome. I'm thinking when you said person-centered, right? I mean, we hear that all the time. Person-centered supports, person-centered planning, person-centered philosophy, person-centered mission, person-centered, person-centered. What does it mean? The Code of Ethics, the NADSP Code of Ethics, it's very clear. As a direct support professional, my first allegiance is to the person I support. All other activities and functions I perform flow from this allegiance. And so what you just stated is just spot on, whether it's something as seemingly insignificant as pronouns, that's significant. That's significant for people. And that's something we're seeing more and more of, thank goodness, thanks to the DEI movement. So thank you, Declan. Thank you so much. Ramu, how about you?
So as a supported employment consultant and a direct support professional, I manage a caseload of individuals who are thriving to become their very best and find competitive jobs, earning competitive wages. In the agency that I work, as well as in other agencies that I'm aware of, the business model is often skewed towards making financial objectives to be met. While that is important, we sometimes lose sight of the whole person. So I'm in my work, even though diversity, equity, and inclusion is sometimes delegated to a committee, right? I feel that as a person at the bottom of the pyramid, I cannot change that overnight, but I have to find additional creative approaches to elevate the importance of being deliberately developmental so that we can highlight the lived experiences of persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities, because that is something that is very invaluable for helping them live a full life, and also make sure that they are not devalued by their circle of influence. And in my role as a supported employment professional, I feel that I'm learning every day from the people I support, and I'm using DEI as a construct to evangelize a coaching culture within the organization and for the individual. Even for the job coach, so that every interaction is a quality interaction and can improve the overall service delivery model.
Oh my goodness! Wow, that's a mouthful. Thank you. Amazing, amazing. So this is a great introduction, Chet, to like this. Obviously the putting together a whole issue of Frontline initiative devoted to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I mean, that was a handful to orchestrate. What's your next question for our esteemed panelists?
Well, before I ask that, I want to say also, John, that we feel like we just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
There's so many more stories that can be told, and we're going to go back to that. We want to keep hearing from DSPs about their experiences in their workplace and how their diversity is seen, and how it's a part of their work, and the people that they support. So very, very important. Just scratch the surface. But our next question is, would you please tell us about an experience where the work culture, or even maybe the people you support, have really shown you support in not only their words, but in their actions? And I wonder if we can start with you, Zoe.
Yeah, so I feel like for me, finally getting that verbal approval from the people around me, like, hey, you're doing a great job. You're really good at what you do. I'm glad that you're here. That was only the beginning to how much I would grow as a person. And I had never had that on that much of a scale, like as a large scale of like basically everybody I work with telling me like point blank, like, hey, you're doing a great job. I had never had that before in my life. And that was the very beginning of like, okay, like I needed that to keep pushing forward and to believe in myself. And I had a very important mentor to me who I've learned everything from. Basically, I love her. She's a very direct communicator and she's a great teacher. She told me, like, no matter what I do and no matter how big of an advocate I am for autistic people, like no matter how vocal I am, I can never do what you do, Zoe, because like you're on the spectrum and you're here and you're serving the community in ways that I cannot. And I've had many of my mentors say that to me. And it just fills me with even more purpose to do what I do every day and enrich the lives of my students and make sure that they are safe and that they are also able to have those same steps to success that I experienced.
Yeah, that positive support just keeps going and going, doesn't it? That's really, really amazing. Thank you. And I'm so happy that that is your experience now. Declan?
Yeah, so I have came into a really fortunate situation here at the company I'm currently working for. When I had my initial interview, it was started with, hi, I'm so-and-so and my pronouns are, which is something that's small, but it's a huge thing, especially as a trans individual interviewing for a job, when the person interviewing you voluntarily provides their pronouns, because it allows for that lack of awkwardness when there's a voice that doesn't always sound like it matches the pronouns that you're wanting to use. Having someone open up to you initially right off the bat really helps ease into that conversation, especially at the interview level where it can be really intimidating about whether or not you should say something during the interview or wait until there's a job offer or an onboard or your first week of training. And the company I work for, pretty much everyone in the company has their pronouns in their email signature. We most all have them on all of our Zoom name lines. So that way it's right there front and center. There's no question about it. And it helps others that are in meetings with us feel like they can open up with their pronouns as well, which is especially huge when we're doing screenings for youth that are already uncomfortable, for them to see that normalcy around stuff that can be really awkward sometimes, because as a society, we haven't all quite learned how to just jump into that conversation out of the blue. The people that I work with are amazing. We are all really big on our identities, whether it's our racial identity or our ethnic background identity or an LGBT identity. And we have great conversations at work, and we all support each other in every aspect, including supporting our clients when they come to us and tell us things, supporting each other, and having support from our supervisors as well.
Yeah, having that supportive environment from the very get-go, like just walking in the door and in that interview, to know that it's going to be okay to be me, makes all the difference in the world, because then you can just perform your job and be who you are. And that brings so much more, because who knows who you're influencing with your coworkers or people that you're supporting, that maybe they're going to take a chance to really be who they are.
Sorry, Chet, think about this. Think about what we've done for 35, 40 years in our community inclusion movement for people with intellectual disabilities. We're helping people understand who the people we support are, and it's no different. It's no different, the notion of identity, and that we can't take it for granted for 1 second. We can't take it for granted for 1 second, especially in a polarized society that we're in right now, right? So I'm sorry, I had to add this because it's part of what we do as direct support professionals to begin with. And so I'll shut up. Sorry, John.
Thanks, John. Ramu, you have some experience you want to share?
Yeah, so I've been very fortunate working at my agency because the caseload of individuals I support has been fairly stable over time. And this has led me to build unique relationships with each of them, again, in a professional manner, because I take to heart that the quality of service is directly proportional to the the quality of the interaction between the person who's being supported and the DSP, right? And very often it's easy to fall prey to, clocking in and clocking out. So I have a fun fact about it. If you're logged in and checked out, LICO, you can either be a coach or a lie coach, LICOACH, right? So basically I just remind myself that even though, the shift is for a finite duration for a job, whether it's a 2-hour shift or a 4-hour shift, I'm there to really observe and appreciate how a person is learning and doing, and really provide those affirmations so that we are building a relationship, and also I can help them be successful and create a pathway towards independence. And during that process, which is always a work in progress, I find that sometimes they have actually become my coach. And when one of the participants, who works at the Seattle Mariners, she actually teaches me how she does the job, and that itself is a compliment, even though the job is only as a greeter. So the way in which she interacts, the way in which she helps fans who are coming to the stadium feel excited, it actually makes it a joy for me to be in the role that I'm in. And as much as she's growing, I'm also growing as an individual. So I take all that to be a very fortunate learning experience.
And it's really great that she can take the time to explain to you the role of a greeter, which really has a lot of complex pieces to it, right?
Exactly. And the majority culture will just say, it's a greeter is just the person, handing out stuff, right?
There's a lot more to it, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Rich experiences.
I'm gonna, Ramu, I'm gonna be looking out for her. We need some greeters at Yankee Stadium here in the East Coast. So I might have to do some poaching. So be on the lookout for me. No, I'm just kidding. So we got a third question, don't we, Chan?
We sure do.
This is an interesting question because I think this is where it gets down to some of the things that, as peers, as direct support professionals working with other direct support professionals, one of our one of our ethics, one of our codes is integrity and responsibility. And as a direct support professional, we are obligated to make sure that what we do in our role as a direct support professional is done with integrity and responsibility. But that means working in collaboration with our colleagues, with obviously the people we support, with family members, with the community at large. But what happens, I think, once again, when we look at the big picture, when we look at the times we're in, this notion of diversity, equity, and inclusion, it can be oddly controversial to some. So here's the question. I'm going to read it verbatim because it's such a great question. What would you say to direct support professionals who are experiencing difficulties with diversity, equity, and inclusion at their workplace? And how should they self-advocate? That's a loaded question. But please do not censor yourselves, because that's what we want to have you share. What are your suggestions to DSPs that might be struggling with this, with their colleagues, with their administration, perhaps, so forth and so on? So let's start with Zoe.
I would say the first thing that you should make sure to do is not gaslight yourself into thinking like, oh, it's just like my perception, or maybe I didn't read that situation correctly, or I don't have the authority to say like this is wrong, or that things need to change. Your voice, no matter how much you're paid or what position you have, is like still very vital, especially in the work that we do, where you're so busy just like helping out and like being there and being present, that I mean those outside opinions and that outside feedback is like so beneficial. And there's just no way you can see another perspective without like someone telling you that. So that's how I try to view it for myself, is like, don't gaslight yourself. And know that when you're advocating, like, you're safe, and that, you know, I would hope, like, obviously it's probably not that way for everyone, unfortunately, but I would hope for most direct support professionals, they're in a safe environment where they can safely say like, hey, I think this should be different, and be listened to, and to keep going, and to keep asking people, how do you advocate for this? Or how do I stand my ground for this when someone doesn't agree? How do I keep pushing for the right thing? Because that is something that I work on all the time, is just meeting that pushback with my own pushback when it's necessary, and when someone's not willing to compromise on something that is as basic as like a student's rights, or what would make them feel safest and most comfortable at school. Sometimes you just have to stand your ground, and that's a difficult thing for me. I'm a compromising person. I like to compromise with all my kids because that's what works. But with some adults, unfortunately, you have to just keep pushing forward, and they might not like you, but they will respect you. You know, so.
Zoe, a question. So say you're not in that kind of safe environment. Say the culture of an organization you don't feel safe. Any suggestions for that? What a direct support professional could do? Say they, for instance, say they feel their supervisor might be a person that discriminates, perhaps, and that's the reality. That happens. With any suggestions, what to do when there's a lack of that safety or perceived safety?
That is a hard question. And I've definitely been in those situations where I knew that I couldn't like advocate. But I always saw it as like, I won't be in this job forever, and soon I'll be able to like get out and do what I need to do. I would say like know your rights and know your resources, and definitely utilize whatever community members that make you feel safe, and help you feel safe.
Sure. Sure.
So that's what I would suggest.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. I think we always the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC there's federal workplace laws that help us in those situations where we're feeling as though we're in a situation where we're not safe. There's protected categories, protected classes of us. And so, Chet, you want to say something? So
I was just going to say that is a difficult question. And the thing that I thought about is sometimes you might have those trusted others that you work with that you can kind of talk with and kind of maybe get a better feel. That you might get some support as well. Or they might say, you know what, that one is not going to change. We've seen this happen in the past. And just, I think sometimes exploring that with people that you do feel safe with, as far as coworkers, can kind of help you navigate that. What do I do here?
That's great. Yeah, that's good. Thanks, Chet. Thank you, Zoe. Declan, what about you?
I would say that the biggest thing I learned in my experience is when something at work like that is happening, HR is your friend. HR is there to help in those situations, especially when the person that you're having the difficulties with is your direct supervisor. HR is the place to turn to if your company has that as an option. Smaller companies employing DSPs might not always have that as an option, but if it's there, utilize them, because they are a great resource and they're there to help employees navigate those issues and to be a mediator in conversations around those issues. For situations where that's not possible, especially if you're doing in-home services and the issue that you're having is with a family member.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to look for another client. If finding a different person to support is what's going to get you back into that safe environment, search for that. It's important for us to advocate for ourselves, but it's also important for us to maintain our own safety. And if any DSP is in a situation where they're no longer feeling safe, it needs to be communicated so that way they can find a new safe location to continue providing support to individuals in. Yeah. I would also say, look out for your own mental health. If the daily advocacy is getting difficult, don't be afraid to reach out to someone or to one of the hotlines to talk through the personal difficulties that can come along with having to do that constant self-advocacy.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. If I can, John, that reminded me a lot of Kylie Brennan's article in this issue of Frontline Initiative, and it's advocating for my own mental health as a DSP. And she talks about what were those things that she was struggling with, and then she needed to go advocate for herself with the supervisors and HR. And then even after she got, was able to like bring her service dog to work, then it was like dealing with the coworkers. So always having to advocate on different levels, but utilizing that HR department, they're there for a reason. To do that is really smart, but also, as you said, stay safe. If it's not a good fit for you, as Zoe kind of said, find something that is.
And to piggyback on both of those pieces, I've been called into situations many, many times where a direct support professional maybe is being verbally assaulted with racial epithets, with racist comments, sexist comments, and the list goes on, And what I see sometimes, which concerns me, sometimes direct support professionals will kind of swallow. Okay, I'll just deal with this. It's the person. It's who they are. And there are elements to that are clinical intervention. You definitely got to sometimes work with people to help them in and around maybe their anger towards a particular gender or their attitude towards a race, right? I mean, the reality is sometimes the people we support, they are racist, they are homophobic, whatever it might be, right? But where do you draw the line? And I think that's where you're getting at. I guess it comes to that point where you're not feeling safe, where you're not feeling you can do your duty as a direct support professional with integrity and responsibility, being person-centered. You've got to have your own tripwire, right? And like you said, Declan, is HR, if you have that luxury of having an HR department, can be really helpful to help you navigate that. And sometimes maybe, like you said, Declan, maybe move you. And here's what I want to say, and I'll shut up because I want Ramu to talk. You're not a failure. I don't want any direct support professional to feel that they're a failure if they've just taken enough and they can't do it anymore, working with somebody that might present racist attitudes, might present homophobic attitudes, et cetera, whatever the thing is that is making you uncomfortable. It doesn't mean you failed that person. It means you're not equipped to help this person at your level of safety. And DSPs are too often too sacrificial, and that's not okay. They have to protect themselves, their mental health, and all this. So, thank you. Wow, what a good discussion. Ramu?
Oh, hi. So, I mean, I think this is a great question, and it's actually a very profound one because it speaks to me. I view organizations as conversations. However, at least most supported employment agencies, from the research I've done, from the limited research I've done, I feel that they are driven by incentives which are skewed away from operationalizing diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I feel that the inherent business model, is like the David versus the Goliath, where they are the David, and they are the Goliath, and the Davids are the DSPs who have no job description that with a standard occupational job code, and the people who they are providing support are also disenfranchised, and the service delivery model, doesn't live up to those expectations for the most part. This seems like an overgeneralization, but basically what I'm saying is there is a power differential. So if I use that as a working context, right, I cannot change that. So I only accept the things what I can control and what I cannot, and not sort of get bamboozled by what I cannot control. So in order to operate creatively, I want to act my way into a new way of thinking, while also having a sense of positivity that there are good people here. Everybody's trying to do their very best. And what can I do to make a difference? And very often, organizations have silos, and there is a power differential between, different groups, different teams. There'll be different managers competing for resources, and so on, right? So in order to navigate some of the challenges that my peers are having, being heard or being recognized, which is all the more challenging after we've gone virtual, coming out of the pandemic. Everybody's on Zoom or Google Meet or whatever, right? So we feel that we are still not a collective. So one of the things I'm trying to offer myself as a learning opportunity is trying to create a talented database where we can actually humanize every DSP who work in the organization, and highlight their desires, needs, and talents and abilities, so that collectively, we know not just the name of the person and what is the size of their caseload or the number of hours they have billed, but rather, try to see what their talents are and how we can collaborate and build boundary spanning relationships.
And to add to that, just for a second, so when we talk about diversity, whether it's ethnicity or racial or gender or whatever the forms of diversity that are out there, what do you see as things that we can contribute to adding to that portfolio of that direct support professional that come from their life experience, their where they're from? Any suggestions for that? I mean,
Actually, everybody has a life story, right? So the idea is to describe that person in terms of what is to storify their journey. Even either in the job that they're doing, or also their work experience or their life experiences, so that it's not an essay, but rather something that's consumable, and it could even be a multimedia snippet, right? With a 2-minute video, right? This is still not operational, but this is something that I have in mind, so that we can actually lead people into action. And also, if there is unconscious bias, right, the idea is to discuss the undiscussable so that we can cause a visible change in priorities.
Well, man, that's heavy. That's heavy. Love it. Wow, Chet. What a conversation, Chet.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't thank you all enough for this conversation.
And everybody needs to check out the Frontline initiative that you saw earlier, and read each of these authors' perspectives on what they do. Wow. I could, Chet, we could go on for like hours, but we're gonna get the hook.
We are gonna get the hook.
So, Chet, I'll leave the last and final word to you.
All right. Well, we're very grateful for each of you for not only writing the article, but sharing your perspective today. It was just such a rich conversation, and we're looking forward to the next part of this webinar, or this session, where the people who are participating will have an opportunity to ask you questions. Again, thank you, and see you later.